and you can quote this on me. There is no way the Orioles or Red Sox make the playoffs this season. Yeah, yeah. There's no way. There's no way.
I set the bar really low at the NBA predictions.
I don't think all Mavs fans look into the stats like I do.
It's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I don't know if Nick Nurse is the coach for the Raptors. I don't know if he's the reason why they won the 2019 championship. I feel like that was more of a team effort.
The Mavs cannot say we do not miss Seth Curry shooting threes.
This questions the firing of Dwayne Casey, who I think is a very underrated coach.
To me, the Capitals really pushed all their chips for this season.
Hello, I'm Mike Grimes, and you've been listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA opinions of the week, video 2, as we've dealt with some production problems over past few weeks, so we've already had to record one video. This is our second video doing this, and the man that posed this question, the man I'm looking to right now, Austin, is there a parity issue in the NBA?
I would say yes. There are 3 teams that have 5 or less wins. I guess 4 or less wins because no team has 5 at the time of recording this. San Antonio and the Wizards are both 4-20. And then you have the Pistons at 2-23. The Pistons have lost 22 straight now after losing by 32 tonight to the Philadelphia 76ers. Washington broke their 8-game losing streak, and the Spurs broke their 18-game losing streak. But then you have the Grizzlies at 6-18, Portland at 6-17. That is 5 teams there with a 26.1 or lower winning percentage. Those teams at the bottom are very bad.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Pistons before. But yeah, I think there are just really bad teams. I think teams focused on the future, and I think there's a chemistry issue. That's why there's no guy wanting to win. I think it's more front offices figuring out, okay, what players do we have? Like the Spurs 18-game losing streak shocked me because I'm like, you have Wembanyama, but it's kind of the pieces around him, and it might be they just have pieces that they're like, oh, this is how we got to pick. So that's something to me with the parity issue, and I'm wondering if we see a change with teams, because I think there are a lot of competitive teams outside of that. It's just the teams that are bad are really bad. What do you think?
That's true. The thing is, between the Wizards, because they traded Beal, we knew they were going to be much worse off. Maybe not this bad. And as a Wizards fan, I'm definitely sad about how the Wizards are this year. I expected us to be a little bit better, at least. But with the Spurs, you have Wembanyama, you have Keldon Johnson, you have Devin Vassell, you have a good amount of young players, Malachi Branham, that you should be confident about. Jeremy Shohan, they have guys that make me confident about their future. The Pistons, they have so many young guys that I thought were going to be great. Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham. But Killian Hayes has not worked out. Isaiah Stewart has been fine. You have Azar Thompson, who's the worst three-point shooter in the league, who's attempted at least 2 threes per game, at 13% last time I checked. That's not good. And you have older guys on the roster. You have veteran presence with Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks. But you sign Marvin Bagley. You trade for James Wiseman. There's chemistry issues on this team. You sign Monty Williams to a 8-year, $100 million deal, the last 2 being club options. It's really a 6-year, $78.4 million contract, or $78.5, I believe, actually. A little over $13 million a year. Now, every year after it starts, only that year is guaranteed. So this year is guaranteed because the season will start, but the rest of the contract is not. So that would allow them to make a firing. And Kevin, what point do you make that? Because you got to win some games. This is not tanking. You don't lose this many games when you're just tanking.
Yeah. No, I think this is a result of tanking and just focusing on players and less on fit, like with the team. And we talked about in the previous recording, it's kind of a 1 year thing. They just eat the 13 million. I thought they eat the 78 million. But I have a question to your question. What do you trust more, Monty Williams as a coach or the players on this team?
I think it has to be a mixture of both. I don't think you could have one without the other, but I do believe Monty has been part of the problem. There's something he's doing that is not game planning them enough wins. You have enough talented players. You have NBA caliber players on your team. But to have the worst winning percentage to this point of the season ever is... You can't be all-time bad if your coach is doing well. Those just don't correlate. Now, I do blame a lot of their bench players. I do blame James Wiseman, Killian Hayes, Cade for not having as big of a jump as he needs to. Azar shooting 13% from three. But I do believe that Monty Williams deserves some criticism for this start to the year. 2-23 is a crazy start. Losing 22 straight, almost unheard of.
Yeah, so my reasoning for that question is, yeah, it is part of him, but in the future when you are hopefully competitive, trying to compete for an NBA championship, which is very far off, very distant future, where do you see these players being more a part of that, or Monty Williams as a coach a part of that? Because depending on your answer, if it's the players, then you fire Monty Williams. But if you believe in Monty Williams, then I would consider trading players and just starting over.
Kevin, I'm glad we recorded this twice. You did not ask that question the first time. And that's
I know, it's a really good question.
I'm actually thinking on that one. But I'm going to ask you this question while I think about what you just asked, and then we'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But you can't lose the rest of the season. Like, you can't lose every game. So at what point is the breaking point? I think there is a point where if you lose enough games in a row, it's over this year. You can't lose 70 games in a row. Like, there is a point. What is that point for you while I think about the rest of your question?
Yeah, so I'll go into it, and then I'll go into a little bit something else. I'd say 30 games, which we talked about. 30 games in a row. That's bad. And to me, something's going to get done in this trade deadline. It's either near that trade deadline, it's the announcement of Monty Williams being fired, you're eating that contract, or you're trading young players. And, like, what happens if Jaden Ivey's on the market? What if you're trying to get rid of James Wiseman and these guys and getting other people back? Because I think teams would be interested in any of these players. But it's, who do you go with? Do you get rid of the coach or get rid of some of the players? And now I turn it back to you.
You want Cade. You want Jalen Duren, who's only 19. You want Azar Thompson, your top 5 pick, to be a part of that journey. I feel like even though you made Monty Williams the highest paid coach in NBA history, at least per year or contract-wise and length, but you want those young guys. You can't tell me you don't want some of them. But the thing is there enough there that you can fire Monty? I know you said 30 games, but that's only 8 games away. Like, that's not far.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks. Like, that's 2 weeks. That's 2023. Do you understand they hired him in 2023, fired him in 2023? Yeah. That's a historically bad start. The season doesn't start till mid-October, Kevin. Like, that is 2.5 months.
Leaning towards
2.5 months to fire a head coach who you gave a potential 8-year contract.
Yeah. So you're leaning towards firing Monty Williams, or no? It's such a tough question. But it's a tough question, and I'm glad I came up with it. I'm leaning towards players and I'm not saying you trade Cade. I'm thinking you trade a lot of. There's just so many young players on this team that I don't think it's allowing the other players.
Name the guys you'd be getting rid of.
I think I would trade Killian Hayes. I'd consider trading Jaden Ivey, but like Isaiah Stewart,
Totally forgot about Ivy. This team is so solid.
Oh,
This team's so bad, man.
Yeah,
Oh, they have
but
so
there's
many
so
top
many
5 picks
good-
on their team. Oh,
Like-
I think they have 6 top 5 picks on their team. Like Cade, Ivy, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, and I think Killian was actually the 6th pick, so I could be one off.
But yeah, but I would try to get rid of James Wiseman. I'd keep Marcus Sasser, but I'd get rid of Isaiah Stewart. I'd trade Bagley.
7th pick. Killian was the 7th pick.
Like, just get those guys, because I don't think it's allowing other guys to develop. You're just like, hey, go develop your own thing instead of developing on their own as a team and wins.
Is that not part of the coach's decision? Is who to play? You have veteran guys that should be leaders on the team, like Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, like I mentioned before. But they're choosing to play Ivy with the second unit. They're choosing to play Killian Hayes a lot more minutes than he maybe should. They're choosing to play Marvin Bagley as much as they have. James Wiseman as much as they have. You would agree with me if I said that Monty Williams is not free of blame.
Yeah. Monty Williams is not free of blame. This is why it's such a tough question is, there are so many good players, so do you believe more in the players or do you believe more in the coach? And depending on that answer, I think that's where you make your decision. So if you're saying you really like this roster, it's the coaching, which you do make a good point. It's how this is done. So do you think a different coach doing different lineups fixes this team? Then I believe your answer on Monty.
So you say 30 games?
I think 30 games is like, okay, something needs to change. Is it the players? Is it the coaches? And I think you do it around the trade deadline.
Okay, we talked a lot about what we think. What do you think the Pistons do? They get to 30 games lost. Let's put that as a given. They get to 30 games. It's not a given. It's not. But let's say they get to 30 games lost in a row. What do we think the Pistons will do? I think...
yeah.
Or you go.
I think Monty gets fired.
I agree. That
Maybe
it's
even the
unheard
GM
of.
gets fired.
Yeah. Troy Weaver.
Maybe they just clean house.
Right? That's his name, Troy Weaver?
I have no idea.
I'll search it out just to make sure. I believe it's
they
Troy Weaver.
they would pull a Chargers.
It's Troy Weaver, yeah.
Troy Weaver, yeah. Like they would just... Pistons would clean house. I think they'd have a press conference. Owner talking about it. I don't know who their owner is, but...
I know I made the joke in the last video. Yeah, it is unprecedented. And you say it like that, and I'll go back to the joke I said in the last video. If they lose 41 straight, or I asked the question, when does they start burning the city down? And you said 40, I said 41.
They actually relocate to Seattle if they lose 41 straight.
Yeah, because that's half a season.
It'd blow up the city. You just have to relocate.
How do you have this many talented players and still have the worst roster, or not the worst roster, the worst winning percentage ever? Like
I don't know. Like, I love the players on this team. I was really hyped. We talked about, like, I had them making the playoffs. I thought they were going to do great. They've done the complete opposite of that. They've been great at being terrible. So this is rough for them.
Yeah, and this is really a parody question, but it's also like, how does the league let a team get this bad? How does the league let a team get to 22 straight losses? The top of the league is... There's not that overwhelmingly great team like there were with the Warriors going 73-9 or anything like that. But there are teams that are just so much better than the rest of the league. You mentioned before that there's not much in the sake of middle teams. There are some in the middle, but a lot of teams are much... You can tell when they play that they're better than their record. And the teams at the bottom are just free wins.
Yeah. It's, I think, a result of that tanking, and I think the NBA is trying to change it, but it's just going to take time. So that's really all I got. Any other thoughts?
Nope. This is it's concerning. I'm not excited for the future of some of these teams.
Yeah, and that's all we got. Let us know your thoughts. Answer the question, Monty Williams are the players, and be on the lookout for our next video.